What's up, folks? This is PG Cooper
And HT Schuyler.
with the PG and HT Movie Podcast.
Woo!
Yeah, yay! Today we're gonna be starting what might be a common theme in our shows. We're gonna basically look at the movies we watched this week, just any movies we watched this week. Quickly talk about them, exchange thoughts. If we've both seen them, we might do a little, cross talk and dissect it together. And then we're gonna do a top 5, which we'll introduce the topic of later in the show. So, first things first, HT, what movies did you watch this week?
This week, I normally don't have time to watch as many movies as I'd like, but I actually got around to, are we counting the one we saw today?
The
Olympus.
Oh, yeah, sure. We'll save that to the end.
Okay.
We'll both talk about it.
So, I normally, I don't get a chance to watch a lot of movies, but I got to see quite a few this week. Well, not quite a few, but a decent amount. The first one I watched was Bronson from 2008, Nicholas Winding Refn's feature with Tom Hardy as Charles Bronson, the prisoner. Yeah, basically it's just about one of Britain's most violent prisoners and just what he got up to behind bars. I think Tom Hardy gave a powerhouse performance. He deserved, every Oscar ever for that. And, Winding Refn's direction is excellent. The music is great. Story is fluent and consistent. I really, really dug it. It's not as good as Drive, which was that his next film? After?
Yeah. No, wait, no. Valhalla Rising.
Oh, it was? Okay. But I don't think I liked as much as Drive, which is the only other film by him I've seen. But I really, really dug it, and I'm really curious to see more by Refn. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I love Bronson. My only real complaint is I think it ends really abruptly, almost.
I would agree, yeah.
So, but I gave it an A, so we're in the same ballpark there.
Yep. The film I watched after that was 1971 Straw Dogs, the original, not that remake. I hadn't seen it before. I thought it was about time I checked it out. Dustin Hoffman is an American math author guy. He's writing a book about math. Or a textbook or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to that part. So him and his smoking hot wife, they're staying at this.
Who plays his wife?
Susan George, I believe her name is.
Never heard of her.
She's gorgeous. You should check her out.
Okay.
Yeah, go find her. Go check her
Yeah,
out.
I gotta go.
Anyway, so he moves to this town where she used to live, and she knows a lot of the locals, and she comes across an old, somewhat boyfriend of his, and they're like, hey, we're looking for people to fix this garage. Can you come and fix it? And they're like, sure. And then things start getting a little weird when they're getting a bit too close to her wife. And then a very, very graphic and disturbing moment happens in the film that leads up to more graphic and violent scenes where Dustin Hoffman releases his inner badass and finally snaps. I absolutely loved this film. I am going to buy it on Blu-ray as soon as I can. As soon as the next at a DVD store, I guess, that has it. And, no, it's just such a great, suspenseful, I don't know if I should call it a thriller, but, just suspense drama. It's really, really great. And, I know people say this all the time, but I was literally leaning forward in my chair watching it, just oh, man, what's going on? What's going to happen? Dustin Hoffman is just such a badass, just beats the shit out of everyone. And sorry, that's kind of a spoiler, but no, it ends with such a bittersweet kind of moment where you're kind of thinking to yourself, was that right? What I just watched, and no, I think it's a bit of a masterpiece. I'd probably give it a 10 out of 10. Actually, I thought it was I think it's a classic that everyone should, well, not everyone, but
families the world over should watch.
All film fans should definitely check it out. It's definitely a masterpiece.
Yeah, I really want to see it.
You've seen the remake?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll check out the remake of it.
Fun fact, I saw it the same day as I saw Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive.
Oh, whoa, a little connection.
Yeah. And I left the theater, and my buddies are like, what'd you think of Straw Dogs? I'm like, I like Drive. I just didn't want to talk about Straw Dogs at all.
They're both about characters that snap, I suppose.
Yeah.
The movie I watched after that was
immediately after that, right?
Immediately after. I don't know why. It was late, but I wanted to watch another movie, and I watched Cabin Fever 2: Spring Fever, the highly anticipated follow-up to Eli Roth's 2001, 2, 3, whatever film. That was really successful.
Or whenever the
It
fuck.
basically, it's basically about the water contamination going to a local high school for their prom, and then everyone gets infected and people just start dying. The film's a piece of shit. It's a pretty fucking bad movie. But I read that the director had no real. I mean, he had some control, but the studio like made him cut back a lot of what he did, and he wasn't in charge of the editing, and he wanted to put the Alan Smithy um, pseudonym on that film, but they wouldn't allow him for some reason. The director's name is Ty West, so I don't really blame him for the film. There are some really cool like death violence scenes that some of them are pretty damn disturbing that I actually really give it credit for. The acting's fairly bad, but the story's pretty simple. And I don't know, like as for connections with the first one, the bumbling cop from the first one comes back. I know everyone was dying to see him. Ryder Strong, who was the main character in the first one, is in it for about 30 seconds. He's in it enough to be hit by a bus and die, and his name is listed first in the credits, so I found that interesting. Yeah, it has these weird animated segments for some reason, and the ending makes no sense and goes on way too long. But anyway, it's a pretty terrible film, but I got a bit of enjoyment out of it. And if you're just looking for some like really sadistic shit, you might get a kick out of it. So for that, I give it like a 5.5 because it doesn't really fail, but it's not that good, so it barely passes. And then the movie I watched after that, which not the same day but later, was my first Tyler Perry film that he like directed, wrote, acted in. I mean, I've seen movies with Tyler Perry, but not ones that he directed. And it was Medea's Witness Protection, which fucking sucked. I really like. It's an embarrassment. It's lazy filmmaking, soap opera type acting. Eugene Levy is I love Eugene Levy, but he's embarrassing in this because he's just directed so terribly, and he doesn't know what to do. Like the scenes go on way too long. Dialogue feels like it's improv, but they don't know how to improv. Perry as an actor, like I don't know why people like this Medea character so much. I kind of liked it better when it was called Big Mama, but and that's saying something right there. Maybe the other films have been great, but Medea's Witness Protection was pretty fucking bad. But the thing about it never really offended me though. It just bored me. It's about 2 hours long, and it's like 5 different Medea short films in one. Like, I don't know. I give it like, does it even matter? Like a 2 or 3 out of 10. Like it's pretty damn bad. There's nothing I can really recommend about it. Unless I guess you're a diehard Tyler Perry fan, in which case go ahead and check it out. I'm not totally against the guy yet. I'll still give him a chance, but
Alex Cross, man.
Yeah,
you don't cross with Alex Cross.
I don't know about these Medea movies. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people that really love them, and that's fine. If that's your thing, go check it out. But like, I don't know. Anyway, you.
I guess we'll save Olympus' Fall until we've both gone through our.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the first film I watched this week was Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I can't believe it has taken me this long to get around to, because it's Steven Spielberg and it's science fiction, so it should have been something I checked off a long time ago. But put it bluntly, I love this movie. I love the imagination. I love the basic story. There's so many scenes in this film that I just thought were downright beautiful and magnificent. Characters are great. It's emotional and it gets you invested, but it's not manipulative. My only issue at the time of seeing it was there was a certain decision a character makes near the end that I didn't really agree with, but thinking on it more and more, I can see why they made that choice, and also I'm not going to let that one simple thing hold back my enjoyment for what I find to be really a masterpiece. Plus, it has one of the greatest climaxes where people aren't fighting I've ever seen. That just blew me away, and I found just almost touching. So A+, one of Spielberg's best. Not much else to say. That same day, I watched Alfred Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder. Bad news is it's probably my least favorite Alfred Hitchcock film I've seen so far. Good news, it's still pretty good. Plot follows a man who plans to kill his wife, and the less you know, the better, because most of the movie is about how that unfolds. It's very stage bound, and I don't know, the storytelling just feels weird and off to me. Like, it's a lot of build up, but then I don't know, the payoff just feels strangely executed, and the movie's very similar to Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, which I find far superior. It's still an ultimately engaging film, and it's an interesting little procedural and How to Kill Your Wife. So that's always interesting.
Oh, good to know.
But at the same time, I don't know. It's a good film, not a great one. B.
That's a shame. I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. I mean, it's even beyond just being a Hitchcock completionist. It's a fun movie. You know, it's an engaging
Does anyone
film.
actually dial M at one point?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Actually, well, I don't know if they dial.
Does
But
Peter Lorre
they have a
show up?
point where someone's about to dial on a phone, and the M is made special emphasis on.
Oh.
But next, I rewatched Schindler's List because I needed an upper. But Schindler's List is definitely a great film, and there's not a doubt in my mind about it. It captures a very important moment in history, not just the Holocaust, which is obviously a story that needs to be told, but specifically the story of Oskar Schindler, and I find it inspiring. A lot of people take this as a criticism. I don't. That Spielberg took the ultimate story of human failure and found someone who made success during that time, and I think that's inspiring. It also tells, like, Liam Neeson's performance as Oskar Schindler is incredible. I think that the film tries too hard at times to be like a definitive look at the Holocaust, and I think while that is a noble goal, it ultimately takes away from the story a bit and it loses focus at points. But still a great film. A.
Yeah, no, I love Schindler's List. I think it's a phenomenal film. Very, very important film. Everyone is at their best in it. Liam Neeson is just great. Ralph Ray, however you want to say it. Ralph Fiennes.
Mr. Fiennes.
Mr. Fiennes is
Mr. Fiennes.
Is just phenomenal. Ben Kingsley is great.
Yeah, he's really good too.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of Spielberg's best. You know, it's no, I love that film. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's a film everyone should see. Everyone should definitely see this film.
It's
probably one of the most important films I can think of the last 30 years.
93 it came out, so it's kind of amazing that it's a film that is probably one of Spielberg's best in its sheer quality, and yet it doesn't make my top 5 Spielberg films.
Well, that's because you're an asshole.
Yeah, it's not because Spielberg just made a plethora of great movies. It's because I'm an asshole.
Oh man, it's right up there, right next to Jaws.
Next I watched another Steven Spielberg film because I was just on a Spielberg kick, I guess. I watched AI, Artificial Intelligence. I won't get into this one too much because I wrote a 4,000 word review already, so I'll just sum it up like this.
Why don't you read your review?
I'll read it, the whole thing. No, I'll sum it up like this. AI is a great film with a great performance by Jude Law, lots of ambition and amazing visuals. At the same time, it's a shitty script with tons of character holes, and it betrays itself in its third act when it becomes complete and utter whimsical bullshit and divulges into fantasy when it was science fiction before, and there is a science in science fiction. So it comes out to being something in the middle and is a C. If you want to know why I think the story becomes bullshit, check out my review.
If not, if you don't have the time, that's a summary of it.
Yeah.
A review for those who don't have the time. 4,000
words summed up in like 5 sentences.
The way it should be.
Then I finished off the week with 2 Kurosawa films. I watched his 1970 film Doreskaren, which follows basically...
Is that actually how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's not even a Japanese word. It's basically an onomatopoeic sound that one of the characters makes. He's mentally challenged and he pretends he's like a car. And like he goes through like the town going like Doreskaren. Does
he like hit people and shit?
He will sort of at one point he's like he's like and basically scolds some guy for like
someone trying to like carjack him.
Well, they all just
Does he pick up prostitutes?
They know
in the car?
Yeah, he picks up some hookers. It's awesome. Total Kurosawa. No, but they know that he's like mentally challenged, and he's part of the group basically. So they're just like, oh well, he's just doing his thing. But
that sounds awesome. Actually, I might check that out.
It's the film juggles a lot of multiple stories really effectively. Like there's never like awkward transitions between them. But the thing is, like any film that's dealing with multiple stories, you have most films anyway. Some of them are interesting and some of them really aren't. And I feel like most of them here aren't all that compelling. So the filmmaking is fine. There was only a few stories that really caught my interest, and really I was kind of bored through a lot of it. So this is only a C, unfortunately. And then finally I watched Kagemusha, aka The Shadow Warrior, which is basically about an emperor, or I don't know, like an important person of power in feudal Japan who hires somebody to be his double, basically it's about what happens to the double in his life. It's an interesting story, and there's a lot of like epic battle stuff, but at the same time, it feels a bit drawn out, It's a bit self-indulgent in its runtime, and the storytelling is kind of clunky at points. Kurosawa himself has described the film as a rehearsal for his 1985 film Ron, which is much, much better. So, and I feel like he's working out the kinks of how to tell a story like that with Kagemusha, and it shows. But it's still a pretty awesome historical epic that takes a lot of care in constructing a world and production value, so solid B for me.
Sounds just like Cabin Fever 2.
Yeah, totally. I think it was a remake, Cabin Fever 2, of Kagemusha.
And then a film that Cooper and I just saw today was Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah, which is funny. When we first said this, like, what about the other film we just watched today? I'm like, what film? Which probably goes to show about the movie, which isn't bad, but it's not something that will stick with us.
Yeah, we also watched all the Evil Dead movies, but we did a separate podcast on that, so check that out.
So that's a coming.
Yeah, Olympus Has Fallen. I don't really want to talk about it for too much because I've already forgotten about it. But like, it's not a bad film. It's a really solid action film. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's if you're ever feeling unpatriotic and you just need a little pick me up to be like America, you know.
Yeah,
definitely check it out because like it made me coming out feeling proud to be an American, and I'm not even American. So that's
that's damn good film.
That's how powerful that film was.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty fun film. It's a solid action film. I'd give it maybe like a 7.5.
Yeah.
Maybe like I've seen a lot worse, and yeah. I know your big complaint is that it's,
not my big complaint. I think it's a perfectly competent action film with a few shortcomings. Like there's some dodgy effects, and also it is like plot point. Well, this is a pro and a con. It's plot point for plot point Die Hard, which is a pro in that it's following a story that's generally really good and engaging. It's a con in that it's something we've all seen before. But really, more or less, my main problem with it is that it's just completely unremarkable. It's perfectly competent, and it's an enjoyable watch, but it's got a lot of good action, but not one action scene that I think will really stick with me at the end of by the end of the year when I do my awards and I get to, like, my action scenes, I don't think I'll remember much of these. Maybe the opening siege on the White House, but that's it.
Yeah.
So.
It's a fun action film. It's a good Saturday afternoon,
exactly.
film.
If you have the time and you want to go see a movie, it's probably better than a lot of the alternatives. I think it's going to be better than Roland Emmerich's White House Down. Yeah. Just based on the talent involved. I could be wrong, and if that day comes, then I will admit that.
Nothing else is really out that looks that great, so, Olympus Has Fallen.
Solid B-.
Does the job. Yeah, it's a fun film.
All right, awesome. So that was our week roundup. So now we're going to get into our top 5, which I think we'll do top 5s each time we do one of these. Schuyler, this one was your idea, so if you want to explain what it is to the good people at home.
It was my idea. So
yes, it was.
We're going to do the top 5 movies you wish would be made, but probably won't. So basically a movie that you think would have, like, you would personally really love to see made. You think maybe enough people would like to see it, but due to whatever reason it may be, it most likely won't get made. Which I guess the title kind of sums that up as well.
Right. Do you want to...
There's no particular qualifications for it. I mean, the hardest part I had was there's a lot of, like, novel or video game or graphic novel adaptations I'd love to see be made. But, you have to kind of think of something a bit more interesting than that. But a lot of mine are kind of like that, though.
Yeah, mine too.
Do you want me to start, or...?
I can start, and we'll trade off. Like, I'll do 5, you do 5, and I'll do 4, you'll do your 4, and just so on and so forth.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 5 is a film that's like a war with an alien race that's prolonged. And what I mean is most films where aliens invade and they've come to attack us end in a few days. Independence Day or War of the Worlds, the battle goes on for maybe a week, and then we win, and the aliens leave. And I want to see an alien invasion movie where they come and there's a war between, the human side and the alien side, and it lasts for years. Like, it's a conflict. You could even start where it's years after the aliens have already landed and have taken, points on Earth, and the war is continually going on. And this is basically an idea that sort of spawned in me when I was little and watching Independence Day. I'm like, well, even as a kid, I'm like, there's no way we would win that quickly. If they're this much more advanced than we are, like, maybe we can win through clever tactics, but not in a few days, just because Jeff Goldblum can type in a laptop and give them a virus. Like, I would love to see a movie that really took the time to stretch it out and tell a story like that long term. The closest anything's come is Battle Los Angeles.
I was
just
gonna say
because
District 9.
Well, but it's not a war. That's more just like they're on Earth. But it's not a war. Like, I want to see, like, I want to see like Independence Day done not shitty and done for years, basically.
But if we're assuming that aliens have more high-tech technology, that would have wiped us out by then.
Well, I'm assuming they have more advanced weaponry, but they're still vulnerable. Like, we can still shoot them and it'll kill them. Like,
yeah.
And plus we can use what we take from them and build off of that.
Yeah,
But
that'd be a cool idea.
And the other thing is, Battle of Los Angeles was kind of close to that because at the end of the film they haven't just defeated the aliens completely. It's just one battle.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it lasts a few days, then the movie's over. And this one's low on the list because theoretically it could happen, but I think the main reason it won't is because if it's a war lasting years, it's kind of inherently dark and depressing. Mm-hmm. And
what about Terminator Salvation? I mean, I know it's robots,
yeah,
but it's kind of
similar idea. Basically,
it was popular.
Terminator Salvation bombed at the box office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
But I think that basic idea, I'd want it to be done better than that. But that's kind of what I want. That would be a good example.
Can you think of maybe a director you'd want to do it?
I hadn't really thought about that.
Like lead actor, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I don't know about actors. So I don't really
Costume
care.
designer.
I just want aliens, man. But for a director, Ridley Scott, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just the director, even like, and again, I know it's something that's like, why would you want that? Because even if they made this movie, it could easily be fucking terrible, and it could like even if it was good, it'd be like, yeah, it was a fun movie. But I think it's because it harkens back to something I wanted to see when I was younger, and I just thought that'd be cool. Why has no one done this yet? Mm-hmm. Instead of every other Alien movie being like, they've come, we win, yay, and it's like it took 6 days to beat the aliens.
Yeah.
The fuck.
Okay, so am I doing my 5?
Yeah, you're number 5.
Alright, so my number 5, this is a series of books that I read when I was a lot younger, that I really, really loved, and they actually made a movie out of, I think it was like the first 3, they combined them. And the movie was okay, but it didn't quite do what the books, it didn't quite have the themes and like the issues and the darkness that the book really had, and instead it went for a much more comedic route, mainly with the casting of the main antagonist, and that would be Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, which, you know, I really loved those books, and they were really dark and depressing, and I don't know, they kind of give kids I don't know, like a really dark and gritty story, but it's somewhat kid-friendly in a way, because the main characters are kids. And don't get me wrong, I love Jim Carrey, but casting him as Count Olaf just really, he just hammed it up, and just, you know, it was the Jim Carrey show.
Wasn't he like in like multiple roles in the film as well?
Yeah, but that's part of the book though.
Okay.
It's not really, he wears disguises and stuff.
Oh.
So you definitely need a versatile actor who can do that, but you need someone much more menacing, and the film needs to be a lot darker. And it was very tongue in cheek, and it worked well. So I don't even know if I'd want to. I mean, the actors play the kids are too old now, but I'm fine with the way it looked too. I think maybe a different actor instead of Carrey, or maybe Carrey, but maybe he tones it down a bit, and they follow the book's themes and ideas a bit more closely, and you could get a really solid film in there, and you could carry it on. I would even love to see a sequel, but I wouldn't want to see the kids recast, because I think.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you remember who directed the original film, and would you want him directing the better version that you have in mind?
I don't actually remember his name. I want to say like Brad Bird, but that's not him. It's I think it's like Brad something.
Because the visuals are the best part of that movie, at least based on my memory.
No, it's I don't know, I have it somewhere around here, but it's I forget his name. But yeah, the visuals were great, and he could do it again. Just I think a bit different casting, going for a different tone. Why it won't be made? I don't think the first one did that well. Maybe it did, but they just abandoned the idea. Maybe people thought it was too dark or something, but I don't know. Personally, I'd love to see those stories done on screen. And the reason this is number 5, because like it could be done. I think it might be, but like there's really no demand for it anymore. Like those books were like a big thing, and now they're not really anymore.
Well, like a lot of book adaptations, like a lot of studios rush them because they got to strike while the iron is hot.
Exactly.
That's why the Hunger Games turned out like not great films. But it's like we got to hit them while the books are still really popular.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, these books came. I think this was like early 2000s when they came out. But yeah, no, I would love to see them adapted, but unfortunately, they probably won't. So whatever.
All right, my number 4 is what Hancock was originally supposed to be. Now, a lot of you may or may not remember the 2008 Will Smith action superhero comedy drama vehicle Hancock, and you might not remember the movie because it's pretty bland and forgettable, but what you might not know is there was an interesting history behind it. The script was originally written in the mid-90s and had a variety of different directors attached at different points, including Michael Mann of Heat and Collateral fame. And originally it was a much darker story about a superhero who was an alcoholic and who was basically kind of an asshole and was like struggling, and it was a much darker story that to me sounded much more interesting. But at some point or another, Will Smith got attached, and the budget got inflated, and it became.
He was an asshole, though. He was definitely.
Yeah, he was, but it was much more like comedy. Like, oh, look how much of an asshole he is. Whoop whoop Jew. Like, it wasn't like, it wasn't a character study more. And like, so the film that we ended up getting was a confused one that didn't know what it wanted to be, and the comedy stuff didn't work. The drama didn't work. Nothing really worked about it.
Yeah.
And I think that the core concept of what was originally there was great. And or at least an interesting thing I'd like to see explored, especially when superhero movies are a dime a dozen.
Brad Sibberlin. I think that was his name. Sorry.
No, it's fine, yeah.
Completely off topic, but I think it's like Brad Sibberlin or something like that.
But the reason I don't think it'll happen, especially now, is honestly because of the Avengers, because it's the comic book movie that comic movies want to be right now, and it's a great movie, but it's like light and fun, and it's not very dark. Like, it's very much just like superheroes are awesome. Like, every shot is like a porn shot of the heroes being great, and it's very friendly to an audience. Like, the characters, they have conflicts, but they're not like really, they don't have a lot of like inner turmoil or anything like that. And people say like, what about the Chris Nolan Batman movies? They're dark. It's like, yeah, but Batman is a hugely marketable character that you can take risks with and still expect a lot of fiscal return. And this abstract concept isn't, and that's why I don't think it'll happen, but I'd really like it to.
So basically, like Hancock with the mentality of Watchmen.
Kind of. At least do it, like, just that's idea, but, like, do it seriously. Treat it with respect. Like,
well, yeah.
I don't know if it was Will Smith being attached, or it was the budget being raised, or what happened with the original film, but there was something there that I think could have been great, instead of mediocre.
Who would you have directed?
Again, this isn't really, like, I guess Michael Mann, I think, be cool, because he was originally attached, but I don't, like, again, this is not really... It'd be
cool to see him tackle a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But as far as, like, talent involved, I don't really know. It's just the idea itself that I'd like to see.
Yep, my number 4, for those of you who haven't heard about the movie, I've talked about enough, Troll 2 is one of my favorite, biggest guilty pleasures. You know, it's the best, worst movie ever. I'm always forcing people to watch it. And, it's just, I don't know, I really dig it. It has a huge cult following. I would like to see a sequel to Troll 2. And there's already a title that fans have come up with, Troll 2 Part 2, which I think would be awesome. And I wouldn't have the original director come back, because then it would suck ass, and which might be good in a way. But what I want them to do, I want them to pick up where the first one left off. It takes place however long it's taken since the first one came out, so like almost 20 years. Where the kid's full grown now. After he saw his mother being eaten by goblins, his father is like off in some like cabin shack somewhere, drinking himself to death. His sister is doing God knows what, trying to forget. And he's basically become a professional troll hunter. Maybe there can even be a crossover with the main character from Troll Hunter, which there'd be some weird Norwegian language stuff going on there, so that'd be sweet. But anyway, so he's become a professional troll hunter. He's hunting them down, trying to avenge his mother. At some point, he enlists his father, and all the original actors are coming back for this. He goes back to Nilbog and just fucking destroys the town, just tears it down. Arnold comes back, and I don't really know if he fully died in the first one or not. He's the guy who goes, "Oh my god," you know, the one everyone knows. He's got to be fucking back because he's amazing. I would totally love to see that, just because it would just be awesome. You know, just make it a full out, just guilty pleasure action film, but keeping the whole kind of campiness and shittiness of the first one intact. And I think that would be awesome. Why it won't be made? Go back and listen to my plot description. That is why it won't be made. Well, who the fuck wants to see that?
Here's the thing. You describing that, though, that actually sounds like an interesting plot.
Yeah, but Troll 2 is not a marketable name.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a small cult following.
Especially Troll 2, too.
Yeah, Troll 2 Part 2. Who's going to go see that? I would.
The thing is, though, you describing it like that, it actually sounds kind of good. Would you want, like, someone like David Fincher to come in and make like a good troll movie, like, because it sounds interesting the way you describe it. I don't give a shit about Troll 2.
If he kept the integrity of the campiness.
Oh, okay.
If he made it campy on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay.
I would almost love to see like an indie guy make it, like just people who sort of know their kind of campy sense of humor.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned like recreating the campiness, and I wonder if it's like a lightning in the bottle type thing. Like certain great films you can't recapture the glory of, certain shitty films maybe you can't
probably
recapture the glory.
But this time it would also be mixed with an exploitation film, like kind of like a grindhouse film,
right,
as well.
Yeah.
Like, and things you could rate it PG-13 because the goblins bleed
green,
blood.
Yeah.
So you could have, Michael Stevenson as the Joshua, blowing the shit out of a goblin and just green goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Kids love green, it'll be a family-friendly romp, It'll be great.
That
but
is interesting.
It will most likely never be made, which is a shame. But
I'm actually more interested in your version of Troll 2 2 than Troll 2. So I guess you've accomplished that. So.
Yeah, I don't even know who I'd want to direct it. Just someone who could handle just games. So, and I don't want like celebrity cameos or anything stupid like that. Like no, just keep it confined. You
can hear
make
George Clooney's chomping at the bit to.
Yeah. No, you could make it cheap. It'd be great. It'd be great.
My number 3 is either directed by Ridley Scott or James Cameron, and I'll explain why either choice is applicable to me. Yeah. Their version of the video game BioShock. First off, I love this game. I think it's one of the best games I've played in years. It's I love the atmosphere. I love the story. I love the setting. I think it would work amazingly well on film. It's just a great story that I want to see, put on film. And they've been trying to do it for a while. And I want Ridley Scott or James Cameron mostly because Ridley Scott and James Cameron are both known as guys who can really handle production values and technical aspects of a film extremely well and great for effects. James Cameron specifically I think would be great for this because he has a real fascination with the ocean and water, and BioShock takes place in an underwater city like Atlantis but cooler because it's called Rapture, and there's a lot of philosophical ideas and stuff. But and that's the other thing, like there's a lot of ideas in it, but I also think that's part of the reason it won't get made because it's an action. You probably make it like an action movie, but at the same time, there's a lot of philosophical thinking going on. So right off the bat, studios don't want to make their films too challenging because Joe Blow popcorn muncher doesn't like thinking. It's a film that's going to be hard for them to market because if you're going to stay true to the source material, it has to be rated R. Studios don't want to take a chance on rated R films, especially when they'd have to have a huge budget like BioShock would. And James Cameron or Ridley Scott won't do it. James Cameron is determined he's doing nothing but Avatar now for the next several years, which is I'm looking forward to Avatar sequels, but it's kind of a waste of his talent. I don't think Ridley Scott is going to do it because he started making movies in the 70s. He probably didn't even know what an Xbox is, so he's not the right guy to adapt a video game in that sense. So those are the reasons why I don't think it would happen with those guys, and also just the fact that a BioShock movie is a huge risk, and the only way that it's not a huge risk is to take away the elements that make BioShock great in the first place.
That's actually really ironic that was your number 3. Because my number 3 is another video game, Half-Life.
Nice.
I would love to see a Half-Life game. And game. It is a game. Movie.
Man, they made that like 10 years ago.
And I know that Half-Life, I'm a huge fan of the original Half-Life, like the one from the 90s. I'm not trying to be hipster. That's just the one that I have loaded up on my computer. Apparently the orange box is not available on it's available on PS3, but it's hard as shit to find. It's like trying to track down the Ark. The Ark, that doesn't even make sense.
The Russian Ark?
Try to sit through the Russian Ark. Anyway, so I've actually yet to play Half-Life 2, but I can't wait to play it. I'll get it eventually. But Half-Life 1, love the game. Well, probably one of my favorite games actually. And I'd like them to adapt that one first, and then I know that Half-Life 2 has the whole kind of post-apocalyptic shit going on.
Dystopian future, yeah.
Yeah, dystopian future. And Half-Life 1 would be the catalyst for that, and then Half-Life 2 would really kind of take it off. So Half-Life 1, you need somewhat special effects, but everything is kind of like...
Small.
It's small, it's very confined, it's very horror-based as well. So you need someone who can tackle, creature designs and stuff, and somewhat sci-fi, but drama and also horror. And it would be very difficult to do because, it's a first-person linear shooter. But I think it would be it would have to be R-rated, just awesome action horror movie that I think people would actually watch it if you, marketed it right. Now, I know there's talk that Valve has made a deal with J.J. Abrams that he's going to produce... that he's going to produce a Half-Life and Portal movie, but I'm just going to flat out say it, I don't think that's actually going to happen. I'm sure that maybe
he's doing Star Wars and Star Trek now.
Yeah, no, I know, but maybe they've made some deal, but I'm just predicting it will probably fall through and it won't eventually happen. Quantum Dream sold the rights to Heavy Rain, which I would also love to see be made into a movie, but But the game also sort of is a movie, so but they sold the rights to a certain company back in 2008, and we haven't seen anything from that. So I don't think it ever will actually see the light of day. I wouldn't pick J.J. Abrams to do it.
No.
Again,
Maybe in a producing capacity, because I think producing has led to his best film that he's associated with is Cloverfield.
Yeah.
He didn't direct it. So.
Yeah, Matt Reeves actually would be a great choice for a director.
Or our boy David Fincher, who could direct
David
anything.
Fincher could direct. He could direct a like a paper bag, and it'd be amazing.
Yep. Sam Mendes.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sam Mendes already did that. But no, I would also love to see a Portal movie as well, but by a different director, more a lighthearted comedy base, but also have enough hints that takes place in the same universe. Yeah, I'm not really saying combine them at one point, but just set them in the same universe and have the two of them exist.
Hint at each other, yeah.
And hint at each other. Yeah, I mean, Portal 2 has a great cast, like, of actual actors
who would work fine in the film.
Who would work great. Stephen Merchant, J.K. Simmons. I forget who does the voice of GLaDOS, but she's appearing in Pacific
She's
Rim
awesome.
as GLaDOS, I guess, whatever. Guillermo del Toro, actually, that'd be good. Anyway, I would love to see a Half-Life movie, but I mean, Quentin Tarantino has said that he wants to make it into a movie
because then he would make it Quentin Tarantino's Half-Life.
Oh God, no.
And
no.
I mean, like, Quentin Tarantino's not the right guy for something like that. And I think.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he'd agree, but he's so egomaniacal. He's like, no, I can do anything. Yeah.
You would have to make Gordon Freeman talk, which I know a lot of people.
Who would you cast as Gordon Freeman?
Probably Hugh Laurie.
That's what everyone says.
I know that's what everyone says. Also, it would appeal to the fans, and a lot of people are like, oh, maybe he's too old, but it's Hugh Laurie. Who cares? I don't know, Vincent Cassel.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. That's my answer to everything.
A young strapping lad, Vincent Cassel.
Well, he's not a young strapping lad. He's an older scientist. I imagine him in his 40s.
Is he that old? I thought he was only like 30s.
Oh, fine, 30s, whatever.
It's like a 10-year difference, man.
Okay, fine. Then, like, Cillian Murphy.
I'd be down for
Simon Pegg. Nick Frost.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Gordon and Freeman.
Steve Carell, I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter, but, like, just who would you cast?
Probably Hugh Laurie. I don't know.
Just because he looks...
I know who... Like, in Half-Life 2, I know who I'd cast Alex Vance as, and I know who I'd cast...
Who would Alex be?
Rosario Dawson.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And then Eli Vance would be Morgan Freeman.
Obviously.
Or just the guy who voices him in the game.
Yeah.
And probably make
Breen.
Probably I'd make him either Terrence Stamp or Malcolm McDowell. But
Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah,
that's a stamp of death.
As long as he reels it in.
Who would you cast as Chell in the Portal game? Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Just saying.
Okay.
I'd cast her as anything.
Yeah. I don't know. Sure. Doesn't really matter to me.
I'd cast her as a tree if I could, like. Anyway, so yeah, that's my number 3.
Sweet. All right, my number 2 is Bruce Timm's Justice League. Now, for probably most people who are like, who the fuck is Bruce Timm?
That would be me.
Bruce Timm was a producer and he was originally an artist, but he also was a producer who did the DC Animated Universe, which is Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, and Justice League. The boy knows the DC Universe better than anybody.
The boy?
The boy. The 50-year-old boy. But he really gets these characters in this universe and why it works well. And he's made a Justice League TV series, so he knows what works and doesn't work, because he has, like, the first season is not bad, but it doesn't really work. So he knows what, not to do, basically. And I think I'd love to see his sensibilities be brought to the screen, because he really knows how to bring these characters to life. And I know right now the Warner Brothers wants Chris Nolan to Godfather the project, which makes sense because he's success with Batman, but there's nothing to suggest he can handle characters like Superman he's producing, but that hasn't come out yet. There's nothing to suggest he can handle Wonder Woman or Green Lantern or The Flash or Green Arrow, but there's a lot to suggest Bruce Timm knows exactly how to handle them. I wouldn't want him directing, he's never directed a film before, but as far as like a creative consultant or overseer over the project, I think he'd work at a great capacity in that. Why it will never happen. They've got Chris Nolan, and he's a much bigger draw than Bruce Timm, who no one knows but me. And also because they probably don't want to risk their hundreds of millions of dollars of this franchise on a guy who is in animation doing that, and that's what he does. And in all honesty, I don't think Bruce Timm particularly would want to go and do this big project, because I think he's comfortable working in animation, and he's doing like direct-to-video features now, and he's got like a TV series he's producing. I think it's still on, I'm not sure. But he is comfortable, and he's in his comfort zone, and I don't know if he'd want to risk that with such a huge project, especially when he's older now, and I think he just wants to cut back and relax. He's done his overly ambitious stuff with the DCAU, and that's done now. So that's my number 2.
So you just want him to be like the overseer of it?
Yeah, I want him to, because like I said, like he doesn't need to even write the films himself, but basically plot out the basics of this is what we should do.
Who would you want to write? Well, not really write, but direct it. Writing, there's going to be like 12 different people writing.
Directing, that's tough. I guess you would need somebody who can handle like special effects and action and stuff like that.
And Joss Whedon.
See, well, I almost said Martin Campbell because of his Bond movies. I'm like, oh yeah, Green Lantern.
Oh yeah, Green Lantern.
Like it's sticking out like a sore thumb. Chris Nolan
Sam
maybe
Mendes.
is a director, but I don't know. I just Matthew
Sam
Vaughn.
Raimi. Ooh,
Matthew Vaughn. I think
that would be
Matthew
awesome.
Vaughn. I would say because he's a great storyteller, and for
you
something.
don't like his stories.
Well, no. I think his scripts have problems, but the way he tells the story is very effective.
Yeah, correct.
And I also think he's not the most stylish filmmaker, but he's very good with the material he's given. So you can give him the story, and he can tell it very well. He's never worked on that scale before, but
Maybe him or Guy Ritchie. 'Cause, I mean, he made Sherlock Holmes a badass.
But
so.
I think Guy Ritchie is too much throws his style on top of things, and I don't want Justice League to be like that, or the DC cinematic universe to be like that.
Yeah.
So, like, not that he's not a talented filmmaker, it'd be like Quentin Tarantino doing the Justice League.
Ooh.
You know?
Or Wes Craven.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine? Okay, my number 2, in the whole spirit of superheroes, is My Bloody Valentine 2. Okay, now, let me explain. When I say I want a sequel to My Bloody Valentine...
You mean the original?
Preferably, I'd like to go back to the 80s and have them make a sequel a couple years after the first one came out, which I think was like 81. I might be wrong. Originally, there was a sequel planned, but just financial problems and stuff ceased it from happening, where basically it was going to be, instead of in a mine shaft, it was going to be an amusement park was built over that mining thing after it collapsed or something. So basically, it was going to be Harry Warden walking around in his gas mask and shit, killing people in an amusement park. To me, that's fucking awesome. I haven't seen the new Texas Chainsaw movie. Apparently, part of it takes place in a fairground or something. But whatever, like not really an amusement park, more like a kind of carnival fair thing. And I think that could be really creepy. You know, you could use a lot of different, creepy shit like clowns and stuff. Dresses up like a clown to kill people. I don't know. And have it take on Valentine's Day. People go on dates to carnivals on Valentine's Day. Like, I think it would work perfectly. And then a remake came out. So, you know what? Make it a sequel to the remake. I don't care. I love Jensen Ackles. I thought he did a great job as, spoiler alert, not really Harry Warden, but like as the bad guy in it. I could totally see that working. Why it won't get made? I don't think anyone even saw the remake of My Bloody Valentine except myself and the people I watched it with. And no one probably wants to see it. I mean, My Bloody Valentine isn't really a big name that draws people. I think there's like a band called My Bloody Valentine, so people might just think it's like a 3D concert tour or something. You could make it in 3D if you want, which they probably will. I'd prefer not to, but whatever. I don't know. I think it's one of the... My Bloody Valentine is a slasher that could have been a huge series. And I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of slasher series, but like, it could have gone on. I also like that it's Canadian, so, represent. But it could have gone on to be something like really special, but I feel just like financial problems and stuff held it back. But yeah, no, I really think it could make a pretty fun sequel. It would be like an awesome, just fun slasher date movie or whatever, like release it on Valentine's Day, Harry Warden going around killing people at a carnival, get lots of blood, get lots of tits, get lots of somewhat suspense scares, I don't know. Don't get the same director to come back, because the remake was kind of shitty. Maybe get someone like...
David Fincher?
David Fincher. You know what? I would almost say someone like Darren Belsman or something, because you know what?
Yeah.
As long as he's not writing it, the man knows his horror, and he knows his gore and violence. Yeah. I would say James Wan, but he's not really doing violent stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. He's doing art house horror films.
And honestly,
which
he seems
I
to
love,
be... Yeah, he's kind of like growing as a filmmaker. Yeah. And I think going to something like that would be kind of a step back for him at this point.
Yeah.
So
hell, get Ty West, who did Cabin Fever 2, only because the blood effects and the gore was pretty damn cool.
Get Eli Roth, and we can make a good movie for once.
But yeah, no, I would really love to see My Bloody Valentine 2, but I don't know. There's no real demand for it, and making a slasher sequel nowadays just doesn't really work. It's easier just to remake it.
Mm-hmm.
They've been planning a sequel to 2009's Friday the 13th for a long time. I think it was rumored that it was going to take place in like a ski resort or something in the snow. I'm like, that's kind of cool. But just it's in development hell. It probably won't get made. Halloween 3, I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but it probably won't be made until a long time. So when it does come out, it will
Until they
suck
reboot
anyway.
it again.
Oh, God.
Maybe call it Halloween, ripping off an 80s metal band.
Yeah, I like that band. Anyway, yeah, so that's my number 2.
I wish I had some more constructive to add to that, but I'm just sort of like, yeah.
Oh,
cool.
you haven't seen my Blood on, have you?
No,
You'd probably hate
neither
it.
of them. My number 1 film I would love to see, but I don't think will ever get made. A Star Wars film directed by Steven Spielberg.
Whoa.
Because Steven Spielberg, to me, like, he's a great filmmaker in a lot of different regards. To me, he's at his best when he's doing adventure films. I don't think anybody gets how to do a film like that. Like, look at the last time he took a Lucas property. We got Indiana Jones. We also got Crystal Skull eventually, but, you know, for a while it was great. But he gets how to make stories like that. With Star Wars, he would be able to get the drama, the humor, the characters, the action, the tension, and just the sheer heart and fun of it all. He would nail that better than anybody. He's so perfect to make these films. And it's also science fiction. Steven Spielberg was put on this earth to make science fiction films. Every science fiction film he's made has been great, except AI. But other than that, they've all been great. Even War of the Worlds was, I thought, pretty damn good.
I didn't.
Watch it again, man. It's pretty cool. But, some great scenes in there. But, anyway, I think he would be perfect fit for Star Wars. Why it will never happen. There's about a shit zillion reasons. I will try to go through a few quickly. Number 1, him and Lucas are best friends for whatever reason. And I think now that Lucas has sold it, it might seem almost disrespectful for Steven Spielberg to sort of slide in now and do one. And I also think that, especially, like, because Lucas received so much flack for his last 3 Star Wars films, if Spielberg did one and it was great and it was like, it's amazing, I think it would sort of cause a rift between the two of them. Which, I mean, I wouldn't care. I'd get a good Star Wars movie, but, you know, I could see why he'd be apprehensive about that. 2, because they have a director now. They have J.J. Abrams. And Spielberg and J.J. Abrams are friends, so I think Spielberg looks at it like it's his shot to make something, even though he's already done Star Trek. But
yeah,
I think
he doesn't really need a shot. He's already proven to be one of those.
But I think Spielberg looks at it as like a chance for him to prove himself, and Spielberg's already proven himself many a time. 3, Spielberg is almost too big a director for what Disney plans for Star Wars, because Disney needs directors who are talented and who can make great films, but who they can sort of control in the sense that, like, because they have specific plans for these movies. Spielberg is a director who's so big that, and he has his own company, that I just feel like that would cause too many clashes in and of itself. 4, Spielberg has a shit ton of other projects lined up for him, both as a director and also just producing stuff, because he does a lot of that as well. So takes up a lot of his time. And 5, and really the most important reason, because I feel like all these could be overrided, but I just don't think Spielberg's interested anymore. Spielberg has said, he mentioned this a lot during the documentary on the Crystal Skull DVD, that his time to make those type of films is over. His time, like, I mean, he made Tintin eventually, but I think that was something that, like, he felt like if I don't help make this, it might not get made, or it might not get made to the level that I see it as it being. But his time to make, you know, adventure escapist films is done. And I think that's really what's going to hold it back. Ultimately is the reason we'll never see it, because, you know, it's just not his time. And in all honesty, as much as I'd love to see a Spielberg-directed Star Wars film, if he doesn't have the passion for it, it probably won't be worth it. But I do like to, you know, think, you know, what ifs are fun to ponder, and I think what if Spielberg did have a shot at a galaxy far, far away. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
What if he pulled like a Crystal Skull, though, and just...
Well,
didn't know how to please the generation.
There is that, but I think Crystal Skull was, honestly, based on everything I've heard about it, had more to do with Lucas input, and Lucas basically forcing his story or no story for Indy 4. Basically, like, honestly, like, I've read, like, how, Frank Darabont had a script in the 90s that Harrison Ford and Spielberg really liked, and George Lucas was like, it's not the crystal, it's no aliens, though, and that's what I want to tell, so they threw it out, basically. And I think if Spielberg could do what he wanted, I think he could make a great Star Wars film. So.
Wow. Okay. And my number 1, the director is Wes Craven. Sorry. Oh my god, I can't believe I just messed the 2 up.
Wow.
Wes Craven.
I'm going home.
No, it's Wes Anderson, who's the guy who would want to direct it. And that would be Wes Anderson's Peanuts. Which is not a porno. It's his... Can you imagine Wes Craven's Peanuts? Oh my god. Peanuts is of course Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Linus, Lucy, you know, all those guys. Based on the classic comic strip by Charles M. Schultz. And why he'd be perfect for it? Because, as from what I know, Wes Anderson loves Peanuts, apparently. He has references to it in a lot of his films.
All of his films, I think, contain a reference of sorts.
Yep, and his sort of, like, quirky kind of images and style that he puts on his films is perfect for the whole, you know, Charlie Brown mythos, you know? Like, it works perfectly. And his Moonrise Kingdom was really what was one of the ones that's be a perfect example of that, because the way the kids talk in that, people say kids don't talk like that, that's too like adult and stuff. That's the way the kids talk in Peanuts. Like that's how they treat it, and like he would know how to incorporate all the different like messages and themes and style and all that into it. I don't know whether I'd want it to be live action or animated, preferably like 2D animated, like the classic cartoon specials. I would happily sit through like an hour and a half movie of that. It could be live action. Maybe you could make it where it's about them and like when they've grown up a little bit. See how the characters have developed, what they've grown to be. I'm not talking about like bring Peanuts to the streets and the youth urban and all that.
Yeah, Charlie Brown gets an iPad.
Yeah, like no, I don't see like I want to see some like Bates Motel shit with that where it's like, oh look, I've got a cell phone, so I'm hip. Fuck off. But like I want like I don't just retain. Like keep it based in like the 60s or whatever when it was made, but just it would have that wholesome image to it, and like Wes isn't known for making like really violent or anything films, you know. It would be the simplicity of it is what would make it so good. And I know that there is a Peanuts movie in the works, except for 2015, written by the son and grandson of Charles M. Schultz. I forget who the director is. I think he directed like Ice Age and stuff like that. I'd personally. I'll see it because I'm a huge Schultz fan, but I don't think that's the way they should really be doing it, because like I don't know, like I don't want to see like a 3D animated Charlie Brown thing, and I don't want it to be by a director of like kids films. It's not really meant for kids. It's meant for like mature kids, and it's meant just as much for adults, you know, because everything that the comics is about is just it's morals and how to live your life. It's philosophies, really. Like Charles M. Schultz was in a way a philosopher who just got across his ideas with comic strips and humor, and that's what's so brilliant about it. And I think just like Wes Craven, God damn it, Wes Anderson would be the perfect person to do. Jesus, would be the perfect person to do that. But why it won't be made? Because it won't.
Well,
because that would be too perfect. And even if it's not 2D animation, you could cast kids as it for all I care.
Well, I think that I think would help halt it, because the studios don't want to take risks on 2D animation now. Like even parents.
No, I'm saying even if you were to make it live action, like that's.
I wonder. You mentioned you'd want Wes to do it, and I agree that would make sense. And he's a huge fan, but I wonder if he almost feels like he doesn't want to. It is almost too daunting a task. It's kind of like when they needed a Star Wars director, and a lot of directors were sort of like, I don't know if I want the responsibility of Star Wars. Like, nobody wants to step up to that plate. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if he's such a big fan that he's like, look, I love this, but if I could not live with myself if I fucked it up.
No, that's a very good point. But the thing with Peanuts is that, I mean, everyone, I guess, over the age of, like, 18, I suppose, like, knows what Peanuts is. Or at least knows Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Yeah. Most younger kids know what Snoopy is and Charlie Brown and all that. Mm-hmm. But I'm not saying that it's becoming, like, irrelevant. It's not. But it's not as popular. I mean, Hallmark has made a shit ton of fucking cards. Like, you know, like, good luck on your vasectomy with a fucking picture of Snoopy in Woodstock, you know? like shit like that, you know?
I hate when I get those cards.
But the, it's almost ceasing to be relevant, because like a movie came out, like a special, like I think it was like a 40-minute special, Happiness is a Warm Blanket, Charlie Brown, which I saw and I really liked, actually. I know I'm a bit too old to be watching like children's cartoons like that, but you know, I'm a huge Schultz fan, so what are you gonna do? But it's almost not, it's not that big of a deal anymore, though. And I think if Wes were to make a really good, powerful, not even powerful, but just nostalgic film of it, it would just remind people of why it's why there's such good strips, and why it's still relevant, and why it's still, you know, an important part of just art and literature history. Like,
do you think that part of the reason it's for its fading interest in today's youth, if you will, has to do with the fact that, like, when it was prominent. There wasn't a lot of material out there for kids on television, so there wasn't much else. Whereas now you have like entire multiple television stations dedicated to children's programming. There's shit.
Oh yeah,
tons
for
of
sure.
shit.
And like I never even thought Peanuts was something that children should really be
Well-
reading. I mean, I read it when I was a kid, but like I was weird, so But like it's like.
But it's something that like older people seem to take more values in. Like
Oh, for sure, and just I mean, who
And I think, honestly,
who
it's-
reads comic strips anymore?
it's too slow for today's kids. And I
It
don't mean
is,
that as a
like-
criticism, but like,
No. It's too smart, really.
Yeah,
Kids today are just too stupid. To
and
get
today's
it,
programming caters towards the ADD crowd, where
Exactly.
everything needs to be moving and flashy and colorful, and the Charlie Brown stories focus on actual messages and slow, and like it's older, so the animation's a bit not dated. Like it's dated, but in a way that I find kind of classic.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So-
No, it's absolutely.
But even though
classic.
like, when I was a kid, anything that looked old was like sort of, not that I wouldn't watch it, but it was harder. I was like, I really should watch it, but it's, I don't know, it was more challenging to sit through.
No.
Which, so.
Yeah, like this movie that's coming out, I don't really know how it's gonna do, because like, who are they selling it to? Are they gonna sell it to younger kids as like, oh look, it's Snoopy and how cute he is and all that?
Probably.
Or are they gonna sell it to the nostalgia crowd? Personally, I'd prefer if it was the nostalgia crowd, because
Yeah.
that means that they would actually
Give a shit about what it's supposed to be.
exactly. But instead, they're probably gonna make it like Ice Age 5 Peanuts or something.
Right.
Like again, I don't really want to see that shit.
Woodstock and that
but-
fucking, squirrel or whatever it is hanging out in the
Scrat.
past. I don't know,
Actually,
Scrat.
actually, that I would watch.
The crack rat or whatever, whatever he is.
Scrat
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, so I would love to see it be made. I need to find a way to contact Wes Anderson. Be like, oi, get on this now.
Yes, sir. Oh, you ready for PG Cooper's movie reviews? You bet I'm on it.
Oh yeah, we got all the power here,
Yeah.
Coach, obviously.
I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, great. I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah. What are your
Yeah,
suggestions?
exactly. What are some of the movies that you think would be awesome? Either just basic concepts, sort of abstract ones like that we talked about earlier, or like specific, like this property with this director starring maybe this person. Be as specific or as vague as you want. And what did you think of our choices? You agree? You think we're full of shit? Let us know.
Yeah.
So
So hope
thanks.
Hope you guys enjoyed that.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening.